So there's the link. It's bit.ly/IDIG Open Badges. So basically, just what I like about Open Badges is that it helps recognize all of our experiences. So our experiences even outside of formal education. So if you think about it, like just reflect on your own experiences and what activities and things that you've done over your lifetime that maybe represent a skill that you have that might not have necessarily been reflected by a credential or something on your CV. So you can think about maybe volunteer work. It could be a hobby or interest that showcase some sort of transferable skills that might be beneficial to an employer or your career plans. So usually when I facilitate an in-person workshop about Open Badges, I get people to think about these experiences and maybe draw a visual representation of a badge of what this experience might have exemplified as far as skills go. So here's one that was drawn. Person liked to hike the Bruce Trail. So when you think about that, if that was a digital badge or an open badge, you'd be able to click on that and see some criteria behind it. So see what kind of skills that experience represents. So it could be things like navigation skills or the ability to do teamwork if you're hiking as a group. You could also think about maybe an interest in health and wellness. So those kind of things could be represented by that badge. So when you think about that T-shaped student, which is often talked about in many presentations through eCampus, so looking at that kind of the vertical being the depth of learning or your disciplinary knowledge, and the horizontal being, or the breadth being the cross-domain skills and attitudes. So Open Badges can help recognize those. So these are often referred to as soft skills, which I don't really like that word term. I think I heard slippery skills at a conference, and I thought that's kind of good because you can't really nail them down. They're kind of hard to pinpoint within any particular subject area. So what is an open badge? So basically, you may have heard the term digital badge, and that is usually seen in like a game-based environment. Both are visual, both are online, and they are indicators of something, but open badges take it one step further because they have all of this information about the badge baked right in. So it's a digital credential, accomplishment, interest, maybe an affiliation with a group, based on a metadata specification. So it contains this metadata here, and you can see all of the list of what it contains, and we'll go into that a little bit more in the next slide. So when you think about, if any of you are close to my age, back in when the internet first started, there was, sometimes you had to use a specific web browser to open a particular website. I don't know whether you remember that, Netscape Navigator and OpenSOM, and but then now of course all web browsers can open all websites due to the development of an open standard. So open badges are also based on an open standard. So they all use the same kind of language. And this standard was developed by Mozilla, and now it's part of IMS Global. So here's what is actually inside a badge. So you can see that you have the name of the badge, the URL or description of the badge, the criteria that someone had to meet in order to get the badge, the image, who issued the badge, when they issued it, who received the badge. You can tag it. That's an optional thing. Another optional thing is to align the badge to a particular set of standards. So you might think about standards framework like the Ontario Essential Employability Skills. So if you wanted to align a badge to demonstrate that a student has met that particular skill, you could align it to that framework. You can have an expiration date. You don't have to. That's, again, optional. And then evidence. So once a person clicks on a badge, you can show what they had to do in order to get that badge. I'll show you an example if I can get it up here.
Joanne?
Yes? Yep.
Can I ask you a question in regards to the issuers?
Sure.
Do the issuers have to be like registered educational institutions, or if I ran, say, like a community group was going to do training, could I set up my own badges and have them recognized?
Yeah, you could definitely do that. You can set up your own badges. Companies do this. So Like IBM, for example, has their own badging system, skills framework. So it doesn't have to be necessarily tied to an institution. It's just whether or not you have access to a badge issuing platform.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, so here's an example of a badge I received. It's on my Open Badge Passport, which is a way of storing and displaying. So you can see there's the image, there's who issued it, that's when it was issued. That's the metadata stuff, which doesn't mean anything to me when I look at it, but it's that common language. And then you can open the criteria. It's already open here. And then the evidence. So again, you'd link on, I had to write a reflection on when I was at the forum, and there's the evidence. So that's a very simple example of what that looks like. Yeah, so that's the great thing about badges, is that, you know, they're evidence-based. So that they have, it's not just about someone saying I can write a speech or I can ride a unicycle. There's actually evidence to show that they have that skill, and they're stackable. So they could kind of feeds into that lifelong learning trajectory. So it can, you know, certifications primarily function to filter candidates into positions or into advancements, whereas open badges can help candidates compete by showcasing those additional strengths. They're free and open, so they're not siloed, not necessarily tied to one institution or issuer, and they're transferable. You can decide, you know, what you want to do with them. It's up to you. Like I have my passport, I have lots of badges in there. Some are set to public, some are set to private. I can make it a portfolio page appear depending on what I wanted it to be used for. So if I was applying for a job, for example, and I just wanted to show 5 of the 10 badges I've attained, that I can do that. I like to think of it as, all these images are from Brian Mathers. I don't know if you know him, but he's amazing, and check it out. Visual thinker, he does some great work. So if you think about like a LinkedIn profile, maybe has those broad brush strokes, maybe just, you know, your job history, some qualifications, whereas open badges help you fill in those details, get a better picture of what skills and competencies you bring and what a student brings. I always think of it, think, you know, from the learner framework, but also from our own, you know, as educators and professionals, how we, you know, we go to a workshop, we get some skills, but we kind of forget about it a couple weeks later. So this, you know, forget that we have that skill now, and how do we kind of demonstrate and remember that we have that and show it to others. So here's the 3D CV idea. So that's soft skills, the warm skills, the people skills, the professional skills. I can kind of show those off in a better way than normal. I also like, so I don't have these analogies, but it's a comparison of, you know, an undergraduate calendar versus an autobiography of it. That's a student journey, you know. These are what the courses were. These were the course descriptions. But my journey also included all of these other things that have been recognized in this way. And you think about the value, that's really important. And we've really noticed that in doing this kind of open badging exploration in Ontario, that's really important. A lot of people don't know what open badges are. So how do you kind of determine what they're worth? So if you think of, you know, the issuer value, who actually issued the badge? Was it a reputable individual, a group, company, higher ed institution? That kind of assigns a certain amount of value to it. And the meaning value, you know, what did the person have to do to get this badge? Was it just show up, which we don't like to give badges out for? Or was it, you know, what kind of achievement or what kind of attribute did they need to have? Was the badge endorsed? So this is kind of a new thing, but it's exciting because it will, so for example, say McMaster University issues some badges, and eCampus Ontario thinks they're valid and worthy, and they endorse them as a recognizable badge. And you can do that with employers, with associations. You know, you can really see some good linkages there between students, the institution, employers, and external organizations. And the journey, like, it was the badge a marker along a larger journey? Was it one that is part of a milestone badge, for example? What kind of pathway did the person have to go through to get that badge? And this is just a representation. You kind of, what I like about it is it's a constellation. It's a path that you can either choose to follow a path that's prescribed and it's been traversed before perhaps, or you can create your own intergalactic badging journey, I guess, based on what your interests and what skills you need to get or are interested in getting. This is just a visual to kind of show the different kind of things that can be badged. So you think from a professional perspective, like our perspective, maybe you're part of a team and you want to get something associated with teamwork. Maybe you've taken a MOOC or a lynda.com, bunch of lynda.com tutorials. Maybe you've had some on-the-job training that you want to elevate yourself. And those kind of can lead to new possibilities, new plans for your lifelong learning, and perhaps job opportunities. So when you get a badge, you are issued it by someone, but then you have somewhere where you actually accept it and store it. And that was the most recognizable place for that is a backpack. So Mozilla Backpack, which you're all probably familiar with. But there's also now different methods, passports they're called, with CanCred, who eCampus Ontario has been working with. It is called Passport. If you're interested in starting a badging system at your institution, you have lots of options. You can take one off the peg. I'll go from right to left. Off the peg, so that might be taking an existing badge framework, contacting the person in charge of it, and they can then share their badge framework with you, and then you can customize it for your own needs. So some of the work has been done for you. Or maybe you want to just take pieces of it and then create your own, kind of fill in with your own kind of context. Or you can start right from scratch. And when you think about badge, you think about what a badge looks like. So that's also kind of feeds into a badge taxonomy. So, what the shape of the badge, what the icon looks like. It might demonstrate or indicate the level of rigor that the badge earner needed to demonstrate to receive the badge. So you can see there's, the membership might be a circle, and then you go participation square. So we kind of, when we're developing badges at eCampus, for example, we're always thinking about, if we don't want a badge for participation to look the same as a badge for someone who had to go through an entire design thinking process. So we have to think about how that kind of fits in. There's lots of good examples. This one's from Mount Vernon, which is in the States somewhere, I'm not sure where. But so they have lots of things that exemplify what the badge means just by looking at it. So even not knowing the name of the badge, you can look by looking at the shape, the color, whether or not it has this kind of little circle, it belongs to a larger collection. So it can get quite complicated, but they really thought it through, which is important. It's funny because doing the work on the open badges in Ontario, the exploration, there's either people are going at it with trying it in one particular course or program, and then there's also the kind of more labor intensive institutional approach, which they have done here, which is they both have value. You both learn things from each approach, but it sometimes is best to do the work ahead of time if possible. Kind of do a badging brainstorming of what the possibilities for open badges are in the future. And then there's different ways to assign badge pathways. They could be, stepping stones, sequential. They have to do one badge before moving on to the next. They could be part of a collection where you get a milestone badge after completing them all. Or they can be the constellation where the student kind of determines their own journey. So how are badges being used in higher ed? I liken it to the landscape as being made up of many gardens, and it's really up to you. There's so many different ways. Continuing ed kind of seems to be leading the way in Ontario, at least. But there's also faculty development, workshops, self-study, workplace experiences, lots of really good examples. So I'll go through a few of them, but if you want to know about any more or want to get in touch with any of the people who are involved in these initiatives, just let me know, because I pretty much have a contact at every one of them. And they're all really open and sharey, which is great. This is one of my favorites. It's out of the University of Central Oklahoma, which I don't know whether Oklahoma is known for innovation, but they are. They do this great program, Student Transformative. I didn't mean to hack on Oklahoma, they're good. Student Transformative Learning Records. So they have this badging system that's kind of centered around these 6 areas. So you'll see the yellow is the disciplinary knowledge, but they also want to develop students' skills beyond the disciplinary skills in these areas. So it's a a huge institutional initiative. They got a lot of funding. I can't remember where they got the funding from, but so all of, a lot of class assignments, student events, student-led organizations, projects, maybe, a student research project, are tagged with the different competencies if they fit. So students can actually search and find opportunities to get badges in these areas. Faculty get involved because they are trained by the Teaching Learning Center. Training comes with a stipend because they did get this funding. So they are, they have that guidance to incorporate these stellar tagged activities. And they have different levels. So they have an exposure level, an integration level, and a transformation. So depending on the rigor of what the activity is. We had them on, and all of these people on in our monthly badging clinics. If you want to get involved or sign up, I'll reach out. We have monthly badging clinics with these really great examples. 21st Century Skills Badges is again out of the States. Education Design Lab is the place. They developed open badges as a solution to the skills gap, and all of their material is available, open access. You can borrow their ideas. You can work with them on developing your own badges. They put a lot of research and design and pilots into the development of these 8 open badges. And there's, as you can see, there's a little facilitator kit over there. I won't go into too much depth knowing that we're already at 12:34. So they work with a lot of institutions and employers, and they have this toolkit that you can access online. So it's eddesignlab.com, I think is the website. And there's Deakin University. They're out of Australia, and they do a lot in badging in this one particular called Deakin University Hallmarks. So that recognizes students who have been outstanding in their achievement at a course level. So capabilities that are key to employment success. So students actually apply for these, and they have to submit evidence that they, addresses the criteria and that they met the standards. But they're given out only to students who have done really well in the courses, and evidence is assessed by a panel of experts and faculty, and I think industry is also involved. Another kind of interesting example outside of the curriculum is Residential Leadership Award out of the UK. So you can see as, is it RA? What the word is now, for, demonstrating those skills when you're working in a residence, and how you can get that leadership award. So lots of really good examples there. There's also in continuing ed out of the States, Madison Area Technical College. They developed badges again for students who achieved a certain threshold. So the students had to get 80% or higher to get that badge that exemplifies to the employer that that student has done that well in that course. And they have also this really good, and I'll share the link to the slides after, just kind of things that you can think about when creating a digital badge. They have really good materials available that they share with others quite widely. So, and IBM I mentioned earlier, great example of an employer using badges. They have, I think, I forget what the numbers are. The latest numbers were like 60% of their employees have one or more digital badges, and they've had over 500,000 badges issued with a 94% claim rate. So they can use these badges to assemble teams. If they need people with a certain skill set, they can search and find those people and organize teams that way. So I think that's really exciting what they're doing. So here's an example. There's one IBM employee has those 4 badges. You can see who has that skill set and how they can get involved in different activities that the employer has going on. Faculty development, which I think many of us are involved in here. There's a really good program out of Ireland called the All Aboard Digital Skills Program, and all their badges are linked to this digital skills framework. allaboardhe.ie is the website, which I'll pass on to you. So yeah, just want to talk, I know that we're kind of in time here. eCampus also has this badging pilot going on with the Extend program. So this is just an example of using it in faculty development. Each of the 6 modules contained in the Extend program are badged, and then when the person has completed all 6, they get a milestone badge. So again, we've been working with Georgian College and the University of Windsor and developing their own faculty development program based on this badging framework. So it's something that we are quite willing to share and work with other institutions on if you're interested. And also, we've been running this open badging pilot project over the last year. That's kind of a complicated slide, but right now all of the final reports are coming in, so I'm just kind of putting them together in a recommendations report. So that'll be shared with everyone. But these are the institutions who had, the ones on the left and the right, who were given the free factory enterprise accounts, and all of the badges they created were pushed to the eCampus Passport. So that's the spot where you would share your badges. And then we had other interest from those 4 in the center to develop badges. So they've been doing that too and sharing some of their data. There's all the institutions, some interesting case studies. We don't have time to go into all of them, but if you're thinking about badging and you want to connect with another colleague at another institution who has done it, we have examples in faculty development, continuing ed, co-curricular record. Waterloo developed an app on academic integrity and badged it. So lots of really good examples I can connect anyone. Humber College is doing it an amazing, they're not part of the sandbox, but they put this in their continuing ed calendar. So I would recommend if you want to take a boo. And I like the way they told the story about, this is a student, these are the things that she wanted to recognize about earning digital badges. And then the badges are able to be stacked. So she stacked the 3 badges and received this fundamentals of social media strategy badge. So if you want to do an activity and designing a badge, we don't have time for it now, but there's this, I'll try to put this link in the chat if I can. I'll send the link after. But if you're looking at, just thinking about how to do a badge, this badge bloom is great. You can type right into it and get a badge output. So it's really good if you're facilitating an activity and how to create a badge, or just want to go through the thought process yourself of what kind of thinking needs to go behind building a badge. It's a really great. Showing off your badges. Again, I mentioned the passport. Students in the sandbox have then exported them to LinkedIn to be shared, shared them on social media and also in a blog, which I'll show you an example through the Extend program. Here's one of the extenders who received all of the badges. So she's just writing about the experience in her blog, and then you can see the badges. You can open the criteria, what she had to do to earn that badge. So that's just a way of sharing them. Okay, go back to there. And there's the passport. So anyone can use the passport. It's open for all of Ontario. So you can, if you need any help with that, you want to try out badges in your course program, whatever, I can help you. You can just reach out to me. We also, like I mentioned, we have these open badging clinics that happen every month. All of the examples that I showed you, I think, except for IBM and the All Aboard program, all of the people who are involved in those badging programs have come and presented at our clinics. So we have really good speakers. I'm always amazed by the work that other people are doing, and I think it's great that you can learn and build on rather than starting from scratch. Especially in Europe, there was a group from Italy who spoke at our August clinic, and I want to have them back. I was just amazed by the work that they're doing. It's integrated into every aspect of their undergraduate and graduate programming. And there's Badge News, Badge Alliance, Badge Wiki, and Open Recognition Alliance if you want to get into. And the good thing about that is anytime I have a question about, if someone contacts me and wants to hear about how how peer review might work in a badge. I post a question to the Open Badge Wiki and I get an answer within like 5 minutes. It's really great. But there was something else I was going to mention. That was also, oh yeah, with the eCampus Ontario Open Badges, we have a base camp. And since the project sandbox period has ended, we're going to continue it and just have an Open Badges community of practice type of thing that will move forward. So if you want to become a part of that, again, there's my contact info. So we have like 2 minutes left. Sorry about that. I'm going to stop sharing. And if you have any questions, I'll put my video back on. Oh, there's questions in the chat. Is there? Oh, yes, we do have recordings of the clinics. The only thing that is that they're not transcribed. So I'm working on that. It's taking a long time. But yeah, they're unlisted right now. But they're amazing. And I have to look back at them. Like these people, the work that they're doing. I know there's lots of webinars that you go to where you're like, what? I'm never going to look at the recording. But the work that they're doing is incredible. And they're really willing to share it. Captioning takes time. Yes, it definitely does. That's for sure. Yeah, Mount Vernon. Yeah, Mount Vernon's visual organization. Yeah, they did a great job. I use that as an example when we were having our eCampus brainstorming about what possible badges we could possibly issue now and in the future. Just thinking about all the elements that badge, the flexible kind of customizable elements that a badge could possibly take. Yeah, I know there's a lot of info about badges, but really, if there's anything you want to know, reach out. There's someone that has the expertise, if not me. I've been working with Don Prezant, who's the CanCred person. And he's really good. He's really great at finding any kind of info or making those connections too. So we're going to be having another open badging forum. eCampus is in the early 2019. So again, if you want to be involved or come, it's a fun group because it does kind of bring together industry, education, nonprofit, government organizations together to kind of talk about this kind of skills framework. Any way to get on the mailing list? Yeah, well, I mean, I can add you to the eCampus Ontario newsletter if you don't get it, Fiona. Maybe you do. But otherwise, I'll add you to the base camp, the badging base camp, and then you'll just get a notification. Not very often. I won't, honestly, they're not bombarding your email. Just about when we're going to have the clinics, which is usually one Thursday for an hour a month. So if anyone wants to get added, just let me know. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, you stumbled across it on Twitter. Oh, good, great. Yeah, well, definitely moving ahead. Yay, perfect. We'll make the connections if you need them. And like Dawn, we're willing to do one-on-one workshops, like a webinar or come to your institution. Yeah. I forgot my last slide was plugging the next webinar, which I should put up. If you want to, sorry. There you go. Yeah, next time on the IDIG webinar series is this mapping the instructional design process in the 21st century educator course design approach from Kelly and Sarah from Laurentian University. If you want to join, just actually Twitter's a good place if you want to just send me a direct message. I can give you the details. But if you have any other questions, please, we've got a couple minutes.
Joanne?
Yes?
Who do you think is rising to the surface as the more, the badging organizations that have the most credibility?
As far as badging
being
issuing?
Or just like whose badges would people be impressed by? I think a lot of the issues around badging is that the open badging is great, but anyone can have badges, so it almost gets lost in the the massive information. So what are if you're trading badges, what badges are the ones you want to get?
Yeah, I think that's where the endorsement and the alignment comes into play, where if you have that going for you, that kind of feeds into that value perception that I was talking about a bit. But yeah, it really is. You see people giving them out, you attended a conference and you get a badge. Like, you really didn't have to do anything. So I think having that kind of, like, I know eCampus won't endorse badges that are participation only. Like, you have to have a certain level of rigor. But like, I know the IBM badges, that kind of is an example of, I think the employer issued badges are going to gain more and more credibility, as employers kind of, if they have their own training programs. But those partnerships, I think if a badging system has a partnership with an employer industry association, that kind of elevates it a bit. I don't know if that really answers your question. But
No, that was a great answer, because I can easily see that within an organization, the badges have a lot of credibility because you're operating with the same assumptions and what goes into the badge. I think that having the transferability to a different organization where they're not aware of the standards that go into the badge is kind of a hurdle. And I think you're right. It's the more professional associations get involved. And I think one of the reasons why it works well for IBM is that they can use the badges to choose people for projects. It becomes a part of your work life.
And there's actually a college that I don't think I'll mention the name, but like an Ontario college that's going to be doing badging in their HR, so training and development for their employees. To assemble teams, and I can see that there's a lot of value in that too. It's a big project to organize, but great. Okay, well, we're a little bit over time, so if you have any follow-up questions, please let me know. Give me a shout. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thanks, Joanne.
Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you. Have a great day.